All right, welcome back to the YouTube channel. So today we're going to be answering one of the questions that was dropped in the comments of one of our previous videos by Connor P. What's the best way to calibrate RPEs, SPD, if going to failure isn't the move? Now, obviously, we've spoken a lot about going to failure and that in order to see how close you are to failure, to then go to failure to see if you are 1, 2, 3 reps away from failure or completely off the mark to begin with. But that is not always the case. And now today, I'm going to be taking you through a practical session of how I select my loads for this squat session. Bryce has prescribed me a top set of 5 at an RPE 7. Now today is a pretty good example because we've got a few factors or variables that have come into play. I actually haven't trained for a week. Last time I trained was on Tuesday because I went away for a wedding from Wednesday to Sunday. So I might be a little bit more deconditioned than I normally am. Another reason was I'm actually coming off a washout. Last week was a washout. So we had our heaviest squats 2 weeks ago. So again, a little bit more detrained. Also had a big weekend at the wedding, a few drinks, poor sleep. Might affect performance today as well. So there's a few things that we're gonna take into account when selecting the weight.
I'll bet it's a 3-week bender. And then I'm doing squats, but you know, a bit of context for you guys. What happens when you do a 3-week bender and then you're trying to calibrate your RPEs?
I've spoken about it before, but the best gauge of current performance is current performance. So one of the biggest factors that we're gonna use today is just my warm-up sets. How my warm-up sets moving, that's gonna help us gauge where my top set should be. Another thing is don't get too caught up in the fancy nitty-gritty part of RPE. I'm actually foreseeing that I'm probably gonna undershoot this anyway because of my adductor. This is the first time I'm actually squatting to depth in about 3 months. We came off a block of low bar pin squats. So again, that's another factor why I'm gonna personally lean on a little bit more of the conservative side today. I'm thinking, I pin squatted like 195 for 6 at the end of the last block, so I'm probably thinking somewhere around the 180, 185 mark today. I high barred 185 for 5 or 6 last block too. So low bar, 180, 185, pennies in the bank, get a good session in today, make sure the adductor pulls up good, and set myself up for the following weeks of training to come, because today is week 1. So we'll warm up, and I'll talk to you along the way on how I select the load. I'm getting looser than a crackhead's hair weave, and I bet your mind golly, while you never find a style like this if you search a million mouth. So once you let poo by a nice show party, I hit a flow like Al Jarreau. See, I've been doing this.
I'm paying the boys, so they gotta deliver and give me some bit of shout outs. Hustler paid me more, so yeah, it's all good.
I left them backwards. They thought they fought it when they shit it, cause boo bars everything. And everything is boo, cause I hit them with a 1 and then with a 2. Yeah, cause that's just how Grand Poo and Stud Doogie do. You didn't know I was the bomb, baby. So Donnie asked me if I was gonna how my warm-up sets were feeling off camera before, but 120 is kind of irrelevant right now because there's too little weight to tell anything really. So normally I would go 120 to 170, but today because of the situation, haven't low barred to depth in a while. We've also been low barring in heels. I'm gonna put in 150 there, just an extra warm-up, just to get a little bit more current data on how things are feeling. So I'll hit 150, hit 170, and then see how 170 feels. At 170 will be probably the gauge today of where I should be going for my top set. Just wanted to add too, this is why we don't really like using prescribed loads or linear periodization models, because you just don't know. We could have predicted today what I was gonna be at, but how do you really know? I haven't trained for a week, come off a weekend away at a wedding. Like, how are you meant to predict all those things weeks in advance? We don't really know. You're just shooting in the dark if you do that. So this is why we like to use RPE. And if you're not using AMRAPs, using your current warm-ups to gauge current performance.
Slow mo's done, you get plenty of slow mo's.
When they bump it in the Jeeps, it's gon' rock right. True. In the streets, it's gon' rock right. True. At a show, it's gon' rock right. True. Here we go with the butters, boo, you know how we do. When they bump it in the Jeeps, it's gon' rock right. In the streets, it's gon' rock right. At a show, it's gon' rock right. Here we go with the butters, boo, you know how.
I drank beers for 4 days straight. So gonna hit 170 now, for what I believe will be my last warm-up. Now again, why I say what I believe is because With RPE, sometimes it is a bit open-ended. My plan has been to hit 170 for a triple, my last warm-up, with somewhere between 180, 185, could be 190, we'll see. But I could move that weight and it could move like absolute piss. It's not even close to an RPE 7, which means I have to go up. So the plan needs to be open-ended, but you still should have a plan in place. You don't just come in and wing it. And that's probably a common misconception with RPEs, that people just wing it. Shouldn't be winging it, should be a plan. You should come in with a rough goal of what I'm gonna hit and have a warm-up series leading up to that allows you to select the best weight. So I'm gonna go 170 for 3. The reason I'm gonna go 3 reps is because I'm hitting a top set of 5. Now, a common mistake that people make is they hit a single when they've got a top as their last warm up, when they're leading into a top set of 5. The reason I'm not hitting a single is because it's too far away from any relevant RPE to be close to helping me gauge what weight I should hit. So I'm hitting a triple because it's gonna allow me to get a better feel of what multiple reps would feel like for a set of 5. So we'll hit the triple at a 7, and then I'll check back in and let you know how it unfolds.
Please don't even go there with that. Dig it. This one's designed to make the spine in your back whine. Grand Proof, a nice setup for you every time. And you say New York City.
Feels juicy. Feels juicy. Oh, feels pretty juicy. I think 185 for my 5. Yeah, we'll slam it. So the 170 felt good, moved pretty well. Knees have been feeling a little bit shit. Adductor felt good, which is the main thing. That's another factor that I'm taking into consideration today because I haven't squatted low bar below depth since we did that testing in here. When it was meant to be nationals. Yeah, 185. And like I said, good starting point. My best 5 ever low bar, I believe, is 235. So again, I'm nowhere near the mark of my best ever, but that's not the goal right now. The goal is to hit a 7. 5 reps, make sure the adductor pulls up well, and then to set the starting point for the sequential weeks to come. Obviously, the end goal is eventually to hit a set of 5 that's better than 235, but not today.
Dead silent. Is that it's dead silent. You're gonna headphones on.
Doing this for years, I'm leaving MCs in tears. Dig it, cause they falling just like the rain. Grand Proof is too much for the brain. Now gold diggers who try to get it, I left them backwards. They thought they fought it when they shit it, cause boo bars everything. And everything is boo, cause I hit them with a 1 and then with a 2. Yeah, cause that's just how Grand Proof and Stud Doogie do. You didn't know I was the
Give me a second, I hate talking out of breath. This is the problem with waiting a minute before you start to label your RP. Do it instantly, because the further and further you get away from the set, you start to like forget how the set was. When I initially got off, I labeled it at 6.5, so I'm gonna stick with that because that was the initial thought, which I'm happy with. The goal was to hit a 7 and a 5 today. Again, like I said, I haven't squatted anything deep low bar for 3 months. I've been doing some high bar deep squatting and some pendulum squatting, but no low bar. We're in the heels. It's week 1. Happy to just tick that set off, do my back offs now, and move on to next week. Typically, also in the past, another really good tool for helping you with RPE is looking at your previous blocks and previous patterns. I've always found that in weeks 1 and 2, I take bigger jumps. Weeks 1, 2, 3, like I'll have big, so like next week, I'll probably jump up straight to 195, 200 for 5. I find that I always can have a big jump from weeks 1 to 2. So already next week, I'm thinking about next week's weight, and I'm probably looking at 195 to 200. But yeah, main answer to your question is use your current performance. Best gauge of current performance is current performance. Use your warm-ups, as well as using last week's data, previous block's data, and have a plan. Don't just come in and wing it with RPE. Make sure you do have a plan. Like I had today, gonna hit 170 for a triple, and gauge from there. Yeah, I maybe, in retrospect, probably could have hit 190 today, but again, I'm not too fussed. Like today's session, 185, 190 isn't gonna really change the long scheme of things. And so if you like this content, informative content, very raw, unscripted today, just came in, winged it, answered, I forgot his name, what was his name? Answered the question. So yeah, if you've got any questions for us, again, leave them below. We're always happy to help. If you like this more raw content, but informative at the same time, let us know in the comments below. As always, like, subscribe, share the content. It helps us more than you know. And happy lifting.